Parents neglected me for years, giving everything to my golden sister. But when they found out about my $8 million, they suddenly decided I owed them my. I don't think my parents ever planned on having a second kid. I was more of an afterthought, like an add-on to the real star of the show, my younger sister, Jessica. She was born premature, and from that moment on, she was the sun, and we all orbited around her. Every decision, every plan, every ounce of attention was directed at her. If I ever dared to bring it up, I'd get the same tired line. She needs us more than you do. At first, I bought into it, told myself I was being selfish, that I was lucky to have parents at all, that I should be grateful for the scraps of attention I did get. But you can only gaslight yourself for so long before reality smacks you in the face. That slap came when I was 10. I won first place in a citywide math competition. Big deal, right? Even my teacher called my parents personally to tell them. I remember standing in the kitchen, beaming, waiting for their reaction. My mom smiled, patted my shoulder. My dad muttered, "That's great, buddy." And then Jessica ran in, whining about wanting to go to the mall, and poof, just like that, my big moment evaporated. That same week, she was in a school play. She played a tree, no lines, just stood there, arms out, while other kids actually acted. My parents treated it like she had just won an Oscar. My dad brought flowers. My mom cried. They took 100 photos. And to top it off, we all went out for ice cream to celebrate her performance. I sat there with my plain vanilla, wondering why my first-place medal didn't earn the same fanfare. That was the pattern. Every success I had, a polite nod before the conversation swerved back to Jessica. When I graduated high school with honors, my parents couldn't make it. Jessica had a minor cold and needed to rest. When I got into college, barely a reaction. But when Jessica got accepted to a local community college, they threw her a whole party. Balloons, cake, guess the works. It wasn't just my parents, either. My aunts, uncles, grandparents, they all acted like Jessica was royalty. How is she doing? How are her classes? She must be so talented. Meanwhile, I was standing right there, fully grown, fully capable, completely invisible. You ever have that moment when you realize you're just background noise? That your presence is more of a convenience than anything else? That was me every single day. I wasn't a son. I wasn't a brother. I was a space filler. The one who didn't need anything, who didn't demand attention, who didn't make things difficult. I was a supporting character in the story of my own family. And maybe I would have kept swallowing it, pretending it was fine, if not for one moment that made it all crystal clear. The moment when I finally realized they didn't just favor Jessica. They had erased me. That realization hit me like a truck, and once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. College wasn't just higher education for me. It was my jailbreak. I knew if I stayed under my parents' roof any longer, I'd suffocate. So the second I got accepted, I was out. Packed my bags like the house was on fire. My parents, overjoyed. Not because their son was off to college, but because Jessica finally got the extra space she desperately needed. As I zipped up my suitcase, my mom casually dropped, "Well, finally, Jessica's been dying to turn your room into a walk-in closet." I let out a laugh, one of those dry, humorless ones. What else could I do? They couldn't even fake a little sadness. If anything, they were relieved. One less distraction from their golden child. I had stupidly assumed, keyword, stupidly, that my parents would help with tuition. Not cover everything, but, maybe contribute a little? Nope. Turns out, they had already drained their savings to send Jessica to a private college. She needs the best opportunities, they said. You'll figure it out. You always do. Translation, good luck, kid. And just like that, I was on my own. I took out loans. The kind that don't just hang over you, they suffocate you. Got a part-time job at a coffee shop near campus. Then another one delivering food in my beat-up car. Every penny went to rent books and gas. Dinner? Whatever was cheapest in the frozen food aisle. Lunch? Leftovers from work. If I was lucky. Meanwhile, Jessica was out there living like a celebrity. Private dorm, weekend trips, designer everything. My parents posted pictures of her standing in front of her fancy college with some inspirational caption about how proud they were, how they had done everything to give her the best future possible. No mention of me. No acknowledgement that they had a second kid also trying to make it. That was the moment it hit me. They hadn't just erased me from their home. They had erased me from their lives. Graduating college didn't feel like some big victory. It felt like barely making it out alive. Sure, I had a degree, but I also had a mountain of debt and a checking account that could barely handle a gas station coffee. First job? Junior programmer at some mid-sized tech company. The pay was just enough to keep the lights on and the Wi-Fi running. My diet? A steady rotation of Walmart mac and cheese and whatever 7-Eleven was passing off as coffee that week. On a good day, I'd treat myself to a gas station hot dog. Living the dream, right? My parents, still unimpressed. To them, Jessica was a golden child, the future of the family. She was at some fancy university, studying. Honestly, I had no idea what. Didn't matter. She had potential. I was just a guy who fixed their Wi-Fi when they couldn't figure out the router. One night, after another soul-draining shift, I was doom scrolling through my phone when I stumbled on a video about investing. Some guy in a hoodie was talking about how the right stock picks could change your life. Sounded like nonsense, but hey, my life wasn't exactly thriving. What did I have to lose? I started digging, read every article, watched every video, even listened to finance podcasts while coding at work. I wasn't making much, but I scraped together $800 and threw it at Tesla. People wouldn't shut up about electric cars, and Elon Musk had that whole tech genius mad scientist vibe. Did I expect to get rich overnight? No. But for the first time, I felt like I wasn't just treading water. Like maybe, just maybe, I could do something bigger than microwaving instant noodles and waiting for my next paycheck. That tiny investment wasn't just about money. It was about proving to myself that I wasn't stuck, that I could be more than just a forgotten sibling eating discount ramen, while my parents paraded Jessica around like she had just solved world hunger. I had no idea at the time, but that $800, it was about to flip my entire life upside down. At first, investing was just a side hustle, something to keep me from losing my mind while living off instant noodles and gas station coffee. I barely understood what I was doing at first, but the more I learned, the more hooked I got. I read every book I could find, binge listened to finance podcasts, and spent my nights glued to stock charts like some people watch football. My laptop became my best friend, and my weekends? Spent scrolling through investment forums instead of going out like a normal person. Slowly, things started clicking. My little Tesla gamble doubled, then tripled. I reinvested, started diversifying, played it smart. It wasn't luck anymore. I actually knew what I was doing. My routine turned into waking up, working my regular job, checking stocks over lunch, and then spending evenings running numbers like some kind of finance nerd. I even started following market trends like people follow celebrity drama. Who needed reality TV when you had Wall Street chaos? Then came the big one. I put $2,000 into a biotech startup. Total long shot. A company working on some new treatment that sounded like something out of a sci-fi movie. But I had done my research, and something about it felt right. A year later, that $2,000 turned into 50. I stared at my account like it was some kind of glitch. 50 grand. More money than I had ever seen in my life. I had spent years stretching paychecks, debating if I could afford guacamole at Chipotle, and now I had actual financial breathing room. No more counting pennies at the grocery store or hoping my car didn't randomly break down because I couldn't afford a repair. That changed everything. I started playing even smarter, managing risks, moving my money strategically. My portfolio kept growing, and pretty soon, my investment returns were outpacing my paycheck. Work became optional. I still logged in every morning, went through the motions, but the truth? I wasn't relying on that paycheck anymore. One day, after yet another pointless Zoom call that could have been an email, it hit me. I didn't need this job. At all. So, I walked into my boss's office, dropped my resignation, and left without looking back. No dramatic exit, no office gossip, just quiet freedom. My parents, they still thought I was working some computer job in an office. They never asked for details, and I never offered. As long as Jessica was still their golden child, my life was just background noise. And honestly, that was fine. Because for the first time, I wasn't living for their approval. I was living for me. And I was just getting started. Quitting my job felt like the start of something huge. I was finally in control of my own life, making money on my terms, and most importantly, I wasn't answering to anyone. My days were filled with stock research, gym sessions, and actually enjoying life for once. No more punching in at a job I hated. No more stressing about bills. But just when I thought I had escaped the weight of my family's expectations, they found a way to pull me back in. Jessica had finally finished college. My parents made a big deal out of it, posting all over social media about how proud they were. There were long, emotional captions about her hard work and bright future. What they didn't post, of course, was how my dad had pulled some strings to land her a job at a top company. Turns out, networking was her actual degree. Not long after, I got the call. My parents, sounding unusually humble, telling me things weren't going so well financially. The student loans for Jessica's expensive education were killing them. On top of that, medical bills were piling up because their health wasn't what it used to be. My mom threw in something about how stress was making it worse, and my dad sighed dramatically. They never actually said it outright, but I knew where the conversation was headed. Could I help? Just a little. Just until Jessica gets on her feet. I hesitated, not because I didn't care, but because I knew how they operated. Still, I had the money, and some part of me, maybe that neglected kid still looking for validation, wanted to prove I wasn't heartless. So I agreed. Every month, I sent them $3,500. It stung, but I told myself I was doing the right thing. Family supports family, right? And maybe, just maybe, this would finally make them see me as something more than an afterthought. At first, I didn't think much of it. They seemed genuinely grateful, and I figured, if nothing else, at least I wasn't the bad guy in their eyes anymore. My mom would send texts thanking me. My dad would call occasionally, and for a brief moment, it almost felt like I was finally part of the family again. Then, a few months in, I was mindlessly scrolling through social media when I saw it. Jessica, standing in front of a brand new BMW, grinning ear to ear. The caption? Hard work pays off. So grateful for my new ride. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting into knots. Hard work. I had just spent months covering bills, skipping vacations, putting off things I wanted because I thought I was keeping my parents afloat. And here was my sister, living it up on my dime. That was the moment I realized my parents hadn't been struggling. They had been using me. Seeing that Instagram post was the final straw. I gave myself a few hours to cool off, then called my parents. I kept it casual at first, chatting about random things, pretending I hadn't just seen my sister flaunting her brand new BMW. Then I dropped the question, how did Jessica afford that car? Silence. Then the usual fumbling. My mom mumbled something about how they helped her out a little since she was starting her career. My dad chimed in, saying they were finally in a good place financially after handling all those loans. Handling? That was an interesting choice of words. So I pushed further. So the debts were all paid off? The medical bills were covered? Everything was stable now. More hesitation. Then, finally, A reluctant, yeah, we're good now. Perfect. Well, since everything's good now, I'll stop sending money. Cue the instant backpedaling. Suddenly, things weren't that simple. They still had unexpected expenses. Jessica was still getting settled. And wouldn't it be nice to keep supporting the family just a little longer? I wasn't buying it. The guilt trips, the vague excuses. It was the same old game. And I was done playing. So I cut them off. And honestly, it felt incredible. For the first time in my life, I put myself first. No more bleeding myself dry to fund their endless demands. I had spent years grinding, saving, making smart investments. And a year later, it paid off. I bought my first house. No mortgage. For bedrooms, a pool, a garage big enough for 2 cars. It was mine, fully paid. No bank breathing down my neck. I didn't tell my parents. Not because I planned to keep it a secret forever, but because I knew exactly how they'd react. There wouldn't be congratulations. There'd be questions about how much I made, how much I had left, and, most importantly, how much I could help out. That worked until one family dinner. I was making small talk when I casually mentioned needing to pack up some boxes. My mom perked up. "Oh, are you moving?" I nodded, keeping it vague. "Yeah, just upgrading my place." Her eyes narrowed. "Upgrading? You mean rent? That's a big expense. Are you sure you can afford that?" I shrugged, dodging the conversation. But the seed had been planted. A week later, my phone rang. Mom, acting casual, chatting about nothing in particular. Then she slipped it in. Jessica was struggling with rent, and wouldn't it be great if she had a stable place to stay? Somewhere safe, you know? Maybe with family? I knew exactly where this was going. They didn't just want my money anymore. Now, they wanted my house. The invitation landed in my inbox like a bad joke. My parents were throwing a massive birthday party for Jessica. Fancy venue, catered dinner, open bar, the works. And the kicker? Realizing that I had, in a roundabout way, funded this whole production with the money I had sent them over the months. Curiosity got the best of me, so I went. The second I stepped inside, I regretted it. Everything was ridiculously over the top. Jessica was glowing in a designer dress, her nails perfect, sipping on some expensive cocktail. My parents were floating around, playing the perfect hosts, making sure everyone knew how proud they were their daughter. Then Jessica spotted me. She strutted over, smirking, cocktail in hand. "So," she said, dragging it out like she was savoring the moment. "How's your little IT life going?" Still staring at screens all day. I clenched my jaw. The urge to respond with something brutally honest was strong. But before I could, my parents swooped in, all fake concern and strategic questioning. They started asking about my new place, assuming it was just some rental. Then my mom, as if reading from a script, casually suggested that Jessica should stay with me for a little while, just until she gets back on her feet. That was it. That was the moment I realized they were never going to change. I didn't argue. I didn't make a scene. I just turned around and walked out. A couple of weeks later, my phone rang. Mom. This time, her tone was different, less sweet, more impatient. "Jessica can't find a stable job," she said. "She's moving back home. So, obviously, we need your support for a little while longer. Just until she figures things out." I paused. Something felt off. A few days later, scrolling through social media, I found out why. Jessica wasn't struggling. She wasn't even looking for work. She was out partying, posting pictures from exclusive restaurants, flaunting designer bags, and showing off new outfits. Her job hunt was a full-time influencer lifestyle. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about money. This was about control. And I was done playing along. Thanksgiving was supposed to be simple. Eat some turkey, pretend everything was fine, then get out before the passive-aggressive comments turned into full-blown arguments. That was the plan. I brought my laptop with me, planning to sneak in a quick market check between dinner and dessert. Stocks didn't take holidays, and neither did I. Jessica, of course, was watching me like a hawk. Ever since she moved back home, her nosiness had hit a new level. I could feel her eyes on me every time I touched my phone. I ignored it, but the second I stepped into the kitchen for more mashed potatoes, she pounced. I had left my laptop open. Rookie mistake. By the time I came back, she was at the head of the table, holding my laptop up like she had just discovered buried treasure. My banking app was pulled up. The number on the screen? Just over $8 million. Silence. You could hear a fork drop. Every relative, every family member just frozen, staring. Then, instead of excitement, instead of anything even remotely positive, my mom gasped. You were hiding money from us all this time? While we were struggling. Struggling? Right. Struggling to afford lavish parties, new cars for Jessica, and a lifestyle they clearly had no issue funding when it suited them. Jessica smirked. No wonder you didn't want to help more. You were hoarding it. Hoarding. That was the word she chose. I glanced at my dad. He shook his head, disappointed. We're your family. Families support each other. And here we were, thinking times were tough, while you sat on a fortune. I could feel the heat rising in my face. I had worked for every cent in that account. Years of grinding, smart investments, sacrificing luxuries while they wasted money without a second thought. And now I was a villain? I took a deep breath, looked around the table, and for the first time in my life, I stopped caring about their approval. So that's how this is going to be, I asked, scanning their faces. They didn't answer. They didn't have to. Their expression said it all. I grabbed my keys, stood up, and walked out. And just like that, Thanksgiving was over. Walking out of Thanksgiving felt like slamming the final door on a chapter that had been dragging on for way too long. But my family? Oh, they weren't about to let me go without a dramatic encore. The next morning, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Missed calls, texts, notifications. I ignored them until curiosity got the best of me. And there it was. My mom had gone full soap opera on Facebook. A long, emotional post about how I had abandoned my family in their time of need. According to her, I had turned my back on the people who raised me, leaving them to suffer while I lived some luxurious secret life. The comments were pouring in. Distant relatives, old family friends, people I barely knew, all chiming in about how selfish and ungrateful I was. Classic. I scrolled through it, half amused, half irritated. Not a single mention of the years I had financially supported them, the thousands I had sent while they lied about their struggles. No mention of Jessica's BMW, their parties, their vacations. Just a perfectly crafted sob story to make me the villain. And that's when it finally hit me. They never wanted me as a son. They wanted me as an open checkbook. So I did the only thing that made sense. I walked away for good. Florida had always been in the back of my mind. Warm, sunny, far away from the mess I was leaving behind. Within weeks, I bought a house right by the ocean. No calls, no texts, no guilt tripping. Just peace. One afternoon, as I was settling into my new life, my phone buzzed. One last message from my mom. I don't know what happened to you. I stared at the screen for a moment, then chuckled, grabbed a beer, stepped out onto my terrace, and watched the waves roll in. For the first time in my life, I felt completely free. No family drama. No manipulation. No guilt. Just me, my own life, and the ocean breeze.